If you find yourself getting offended by what people say and then spiraling into emotional or binge eating later, you might not realize what's actually happening under the surface. Because the truth is, you can only be offended when it's true. And those are the exact patterns that lead to diving face first into a pint of ice cream. In this episode, I'm breaking down the one condition that has to exist for someone to be offended, what your insults about others secretly reveal about you, and how this pattern connects directly to emotional eating. I'm your host, Holly Bertone, former FBI Chief of Staff for Counterintelligence, now known as the Emotional Eating Profiler and Coach. What I've seen in my experience is that people who attack other people, they are operating from their wound. People who attack ideas are operating from intelligence. People who attack the concept are operating from emotional intelligence. Now, to level set before we go on, there are many different reasons we can get offended, which include things like when something is unjust or inappropriate slurs or bullying language, or if someone violates our value system, things like that. I want to be perfectly clear. None of that is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that level of personal offense that people feel when someone says something and it hurts their feelings and they internalize it. That is the specific focus of this episode. Part one, the condition that has to exist for someone to be offended is when they believe it to be true about themselves. Let me run the scenario by you. I am 5'1", 5'1". So if someone were to tease me, they were to call me a giraffe for being tall, I would just laugh at them and be like, you're an idiot. Like I'm 5 foot nothing. It means nothing to me because I've never been tall and I've never been teased for being tall. It's not even in my scope of reality. But if someone were to call me short stuff or something like that, or let's say they would hold something over my head and I can't reach it, I'm having to jump to try to get it. Yeah, guess what? That's going to tick me off a little bit because you can only be offended when it's true. By the way, I know this is a short video today, but if you're getting any value, hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. Part two, what your insults about others secretly reveal about you. Every insult is a confession. This is a quote by Chase Hughes, and it rings so true. And I want to share a real life example of this to compare and contrast. I posted a reel on Instagram and I broke down a common pattern of women that I see. And as I broke it down, I also mentioned I was her. I was knee deep in that pattern. And there was a woman in the comments and she went right to blaming me for, she said I was victim blaming rather than investigating, when in fact the entire video was breaking down the pattern. And here's my takeaway, and do with it what you want. I remember this quote that Chase had said. He said, every insult is a confession. So I could have been offended by her comment. But what I found interesting when I took that step back was her insult was to blame me for victim blaming. So think about it from that perspective. And she's probably someone, and I don't know this for a fact, I can only predict based on my past experience working with hundreds of women. But she's probably someone who has never herself gotten out of being a victim. She herself is staying in that victim mentality. So yeah, this was holding up a mirror for her. She needed to express herself in that manner. And what I find interesting is that the people who stay in victim mentality, they will never, ever get out until they decide to make a change. The women who I work with, they step up. They take radical responsibility. We peel back the layers to help them get to that place to remember who they are. It is a messy process, and I am so proud of the women I work with because they dive all in. They take full responsibility for their actions and they do the work. Part 3 is the tie-in to emotional eating. The majority of the women I work with, they are high achievers to the extreme. They girl boss all day and then they come home and they take care of their families. One of the downsides of that is operating 24/7 in this dysregulated nervous system. If you're running 100 miles an hour all day long, your body does not know calm. Your body only knows chaos. And when you're in that state of stress and chaos, okay, well, let me just ask you this. Is there a greater chance that you're going to get triggered by what someone says? I can tell you from a fact, when that was my life, when I was knee deep in that, the answer was a definite yes. I lived on a hair trigger. Anything and everything set me off. And when someone said something, even if it had zero malice in it, I took offense. My feelings got hurt, and then I'd feel this rise of emotion bubbling up inside. And then I would spiral. And then I ate. I ate chocolate. I ate cookies. I ate ice cream. I ate pizza. I pretty much ate everything I could get my hands on because I needed to self-soothe. And if deep down you're like, yeah, Holly, that's me too. I want you to listen to what I'm about to say because I've got a playbook for helping you to deal with these insults. Number 1, take a pause, take a breath, just center yourself. If it helps, visualize yourself floating up towards the ceiling and disconnecting from the situation. Ask yourself, if I were to look at this person's heart, are they trying their best, but it's lost in translation? Or are they actually being a jerky jerk? Number 3, if this is an in-person conversation, it is easy to go on the defensive, which actually gives them what they want. So what to do instead, what I just talked about, take a breath, take a moment, center yourself. Also, lower your voice so it's not all squeaky because whenever we get nervous or upset, we get this squeaky voice. And I want you to repeat exactly what they said, and I want you to repeat it with this exact cadence. And I'm just going to use the example of the woman in my comment section. I guess it's a lot easier to victim blame than to zoom out and investigate. Say it exactly like that. And make sure you end on the down. You don't want an up inflection at the end. You want a down. So you don't want to say, zoom out and investigate. You want to say, zoom out and investigate, period. When you are not regulated, you are seeking control. And the result is that your speech and your actions are going to be fast and chaotic. But what real control looks like, it is slow and it is boring. Now that you know what these patterns look like, my question to you is, how do these patterns show up with your emotional eating? And are you starting to understand why you think that you have control over your cravings and you're overeating with the diets and the calories and the willpower when that's actually making it worse? Another question you can ask yourself is, how stable do I feel right now? And if the answer isn't what you were hoping for, maybe it's time to pause before speaking, acting out, or eating. If you enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to a brand new, live, and totally free masterclass that I am hosting on how to brainwash yourself to obliterate emotional eating. If you are low-key obsessed with psychology and you want to understand the hidden pattern that's been driving this all along, you're also a little low-key obsessed with winning, this might be interesting for you. You can steal the exact 3-step FBI-inspired method that has helped several hundred women eliminate cravings, mindless snacking, and the emotional eating triggers without the diets, without counting calories, or without relying on willpower. Plus, you are going to get the dark psychology secret behind how some women can just eat one cookie and put the rest away without any kind of issue while you're over here inhaling in the entire sleeve of cookies. I'll leave a link in the show notes for you so you can register. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Holly Bertone, and this is Weight Loss Forensics.